Well, there we are. Technology advances all the time, doesn't it, Alistair?
Oh, the excitement, just the sheer joy of playing with new buttons.
So anyway, welcome everyone to Webinar Wednesday again. 6 months. Is it 6 months today? I think it is into lockdown. I think today is 6 months since lockdown started.
Is it? I should start scratching it on the walls. You know,
Yeah.
it feels
half a year since we went into lockdown. Yeah, so there we are, and we've been doing this for not quite half a year, but maybe 5 months, haven't we, Alistair?
We have indeed. We have indeed chronicling our journey through the.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Actually, eventually, when we go back, we'll be able to look back at those first ones and think, "Wow, what didn't we look young then, Alistair?"
I know. I don't think I'll ever say that about myself. But
yeah, what was that before my last birthday? What was that like?
What was that like? Indeed. It's yeah. It just seems to be cyclical just now, isn't it? As well, we're going backwards a little bit with the restrictions and stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
And the confusion about, so we can do less of this, but we can do more of that.
Yeah. I know. You really need to keep. I don't know. You just need to be aware of all the changes, don't you? And then if you're going into, I don't know, it's quite hard. Like you say, it's quite hard. But anyway, just in case anybody's here who hasn't been here before, we are going to be online for about 45 minutes. And today's guest is Nic Crosby. Nic's joining us about 11:15, and we'll talk to Nic about what he's been doing recently and how he's involved with us. And Nic's been involved with In Control Scotland for lots and lots of years. If you want to make a comment, you can make a comment in wherever the comment section is on your computer. And here we are. Here's some comments coming in. And if you want to ask a question, you can also do that using that button. So that's us for today, I think. So what have you been doing, Alistair? Just tell us what you've been doing over the last wee while.
So
busy enough, do you think?
A little bit of Citizen Fest. We've been possibly doing a little bit of Citizen Fest over the last week, haven't we? Really?
We certainly have, yeah.
We have been morning till night.
Yeah, last week. But it finished on Saturday, didn't it? So it finished on Saturday the 19th, Citizen Fest. The We Are One Citizen Fest in conjunction with No Labels, No Walls. So a big thing.
And stay up late. And Electronic Glasgow. And that's probably all, isn't it? Yeah, but anyway, certainly lots and lots of different material there, lots and lots of different content there, wasn't it? Yes. I mean, Electronic Glasgow went on till 3 a.m. Stapleton went on till about 2:30, and every day it was starting. There was at least 4.5 hours of live broadcast, and on the end and the beginning there was much longer than that. So lots of stuff there. And then if you got sick of that, you could go to No Labels, No Walls. You could, and all that stuff's still available to see on the YouTube channels and things as well. So that's really important, because you couldn't catch it. That's one of the things that, because we were involved in so much running of things, I caught up with as much as I could. But there's some other stuff I'm going to have to go back and check on. And there's a lot of really good connected stuff. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the things is how we build on that from there, how we keep connected with some of those things, so that some of the international stuff, so that we can just keep going forward. Yeah.
And all of that, I mean, obviously people can see that on Facebook if they want, but they can also go to the YouTube channel, and I think it's probably easier to view it on the YouTube channel. No.
Oh yes, and what William's saying, they stayed on till 3:30. It was just us old fogies that called it quits at 2:30.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Okay, it was the formal part of the evening finished at that.
The formal part of the evening, yeah.
That's right, yeah. And you can also see, just to say to people, if you are watching this, then we are also live streaming these days from now on, really, on both Facebook and YouTube. So the Webinar Wednesday every week will be on Facebook and also on YouTube at the same time. For anybody who, I know some people out there say I'm not that keen on coming on Facebook, so it gives us gives people another opportunity to join us in a different place.
Yeah.
So for example, we started that last week, and the
amazing Fionathon last week are the first of our webinar Wednesdays that you can see actually on the In Control Scotland YouTube channel.
Yes.
And if you missed it, seriously, if you missed it, I would say go and watch it again because I love it. Sorry. I mean, I was there. I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, it was so interesting, wasn't it? I mean, the fact that Fionn was the first, the first person in Ireland to, to get his own, to push for and get his own budget, and just that thing about what he's been able with his dad, what they've been able to achieve together.
Yeah.
If you think about that, the life that he's got compared to what they would have spent on local authority services.
Well, amazing. Everybody.
Absolutely stunning.
Amazing. That's what I mean. Like there was comments. There were comments, weren't there, on the broadcast, like, oh, "I want your life, Fionn," or things like that, and that's really interesting, that, isn't it? But that's just fantastic. Apart from anything, it's fantastic. But it was really interesting. But they also talked about some of the challenges for them in doing that, and being that, and taking on those responsibilities and doing that as well, didn't they? Which was also for me really interesting to hear. And then a fantastic ending. So I won't say what I won't say what it was.
Spoil the ending. No.
I won't say
no
what
spoilers. No spoiler alert.
No. Okay.
So and I guess the challenge, which brings us back into the Social Work Scotland stuff that we're doing, is to kind of make that deliverable, make that answerable result for SDS for everybody, so that everybody can be imaginative, be creative.
Yeah.
Not run away with lots of money, but actually the money that would usually be spent on other stuff.
Yeah.
To use that in the best way possible to create, really fabulous
life. To get that good life, to get that life. Yeah, because it's that. I shouldn't go on too much about it, but it's that question that they ask as well as part of their films, which is a whole set of other stuff that they're involved in. What do you love about your life?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to be able to use whatever resources you've got to be able to answer that question in whatever way makes most sense to you, doesn't it? So like you say, how do we make this more of the experience for more people? Is the question for me. And
that's,
it's always been the question. Actually, it's
always been the question right from the very start. And I still remember. I think the first event where I met you from where it were, and I met you and Fran and we were hearing from somebody who had a life-limiting condition, and he was in his, I think he was late 40s, and he was saying about being offered respite in an old people's home, and that he wanted a last holiday with his family, and that he made that happen. But initially, it was for less money than that, and it's just the same message all the way through. It's like he showed the pictures, and he got somebody to help him in and out of his wheelchair, and it was a fabulous holiday. It was just incomparable.
We did a wee film as well. Did you see his film? It was like a slideshow, wasn't it? It was his film. Yeah. I know that.
Yeah. So it's like we knew that back then. We still know it now.
Yeah. But that's what keeps you going as well, Alistair, isn't it? No, actually seeing, hearing, sharing those sorts of stories, maybe stories. I don't know what the word. But
experiences, absolutely. Lived experience of people. Yeah.
That's what it's all. Well, first of all, that's what it's all about, or that's what it should be all about. And secondly, I think that's for anyone who watches that provides some sustenance for them to think, actually, we can do some things here that'll help things to be better in the future for everyone.
Yeah, and from all angles, that whole thing about, well, the anxiety that folk had about, well, should we be, giving somebody a budget to do something like this? Is it going to be misrepresented in the media and stuff like that? Versus the actual outcomes for somebody, and just that confidence that everybody has the confidence to ask, the confidence to offer that flexibility, and just no shortcuts, just doing it right.
Yeah.
None of it's rocket science, is it? It's just listen to people, provide the environment that helps people to dream and think more imaginatively, and
that probably leads as well. that leads as well onto thinking about the other things that we've been doing this week, which is the lunchtime sessions, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Been doing a series of lunchtime sessions from 12:30 to 1:30 every day so far this week, and we will go through until tomorrow. And today's session is a session, and they are particularly intended for people interested in self-directed support for children, families, and young people. So anything that relates to children and families and young people directing their own support, having more choice and control. And we've done 2 sessions so far. Today's session is support planning in the time of COVID-19 and trying to learn some of the things that we've been learning and share some of the experiences again of people as they've been going through that. And we have each day we have some short presentations, an opportunity for talk and discussion and asking questions. So if anybody didn't know we're doing that and is watching today and wants to join us at 12 o'clock, we're going to jump off this live stream and go over to Microsoft Teams then. So, so if you do, you could email June quickly or email info.
Yes, I've put it on Facebook and I've put it on Twitter, just the info at address, and I've put the agenda up for today so you can see who's talking. Because unless, do you want to run through who's talking? Not really.
No, not today. We can maybe
a surprise.
We can even do we can even do it when Nick joins us, because Nick is Nick, our guest today. Nic Crosby has been involved in all of the events and will be involved in today's and tomorrow's as well. So So I mean, it's been really interesting. I guess we'll get into that when we get Nick on. But it probably does feel like it's been a little bit full on in the last 2 weeks, doesn't it? Particularly.
It has.
I think we both need to take a little breath.
I think there's been spells of time that I wouldn't like to count the amount of hours just sitting in my little log cabin, till silly o'clock at night. And but it's but it's really good in the connections and stuff, and some of the folk that have connected through the stay up late stuff. Who are like now talking about, okay, so what else are you doing and stuff like that. I mean, and it's created another, level of folk, joining me on Facebook and asking me questions. But it's another group of folk who are then going to be better informed, know what we're on about, and making.
I got a nice wee email this morning from one of the bands that was on the Stay Up Late Scotland music night, Alistair. Steel Squid Collective from North Somerset. I was calling them from Bristol, but they say they're from North Somerset, which is probably harder for us here to say, where's North Somerset? Anyway, and they just, it was from one of the band members, and he said, thanks. Basically, he said, thanks for having us in the festival. It's been a wee boost for everyone in these strange and unusual times. So that was nice. Yeah,
that was nice. We've actually got. I've actually got a copy from Paul Richards from we were down at when myself and Bruce went down as part of the. I've actually got this steel clip. The EP. Yeah. So we'll need to play that when we get another.
Yeah. Well, we are gonna. I mean, we next week can maybe talk a bit more, but me and Michael are gonna do this wee music show on a Friday night once a month as well.
Yes.
So although we haven't sorted that properly yet, I'm sure we can get a bit of Steel Squid in there. Anyway.
Yes. A bit of.
Not to digress into that.
We would never digress, would we?
No. I mean, I would be in there all night if not all night because it's not night, is it? But I'd be in there all day if I started talking about that sort of.
There we go, and that's what you've been saying as well. He's been up all night with most things as well.
Oh yeah.
We have been hard at it, but it has been really good connecting. So the other stuff, I guess, is the Social Work Scotland. They are again that feeds back into that idea of answerability and confidence and similar set of standards throughout Scotland for SDS.
Yeah.
It's hard to nail that down, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the Social Work Scotland, what's called the Social Work Scotland Self-Directed Support Project, which is trying to develop these standards within a framework of implementation.
Yeah.
That can be used anywhere in Scotland, so that you can, so partly so you know what you can expect, but also partly so that, as you say, there can be some standards that people can say, well, this is what should be happening, and this is what is happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess one of the things we've started doing in the last couple of Feel Good Fridays is just been to start trying to say, rather than translating what the professional standards are, what would people look for in terms of if they were measuring it from scratch. So we're already starting that, and we're keen to speak to other folk to get other groups involved in that as well. So that's good.
Okay, good.
Okay, dokes. Shall we welcome our guest on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, Nick.
Hello.
How are you today?
Day 3 of the lunchtime working lunches. Good so far.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to just introduce yourself, Nick?
Living down in Plymouth, Nic Crosby. Been working with Keith. I remember meeting Keith at a North Lanarkshire meeting in 2006 or 7.
All right. Okay.
We with the snapper, and
it looked exactly the same, Nick. That's the strange thing.
Your hair's looking more regal now, Keith.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So been working with you guys in Scotland for years now, up and down on the train, up and down on the plane, and doing stuff around taking first steps was the first big thing that we did together, which was brilliant. And it's great how many times that gets mentioned when we did this week. And then doing all sorts of other things with people in Europe and Alfie down in London and Inclusion London, and local support service at the moment, setting up a new service for young people at risk of exclusion or who've been excluded from local schools, planning with them to try and help them get back into learning of one sort or another. So all sorts.
Okay, and you do that under your own organisation, really, now, don't you? Called Gather Build Work, Nick? Yeah.
It's just me. I had to go on some sort of framework with a local authority, and they got really puzzled because they said, "Who's the director, Nick? Who's the secretary, Nick? Who do we contact about paying me?"
What about your finance person? Yeah, that's you. Yeah.
It was. I finished work with In Control and NHS England back in 2017, and set up on my own. Gather strength, build vision, work together.
Yeah. Wow. It's 3 years now. 3 years. I mean.
3 years.
Honestly, I wouldn't have said 3 years. I would have said maybe, I don't know, 18 months ago or something like that.
It's been quite an experience, as you know, Keith, and it's well worth it. And it's meant I know so many people now, and so many interesting opportunities to work with people all over Europe, and most recently.
No, sorry. I was going to say, you sent me an email the other day, didn't you? And at the start of it, there was something about Croatian asylums, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, maybe this one isn't meant for me.
Well, we're starting a research thing funded by a European organisation around identifying examples of successful closure of institutions, and we've got to find them, and there are not many stories out there about how institutions have closed and people have had the right support, and are now living independently. Often what happens is they get moved to smaller institutions, but same sort of experience as living in the big ones. So these are institutions where in some places children are put away basically when they're 3 months old, and they don't work, they don't come out. Working with some amazing guys in Slovenia, and still linked up with them and starting to support another piece of work there. And they go in institutions, and they literally go in as a team, and they live there for a week in the same place, in the same wards that the people are locked up in. They take rock bands in, and they have rock festivals in them. They take everybody out for ice creams, much to the dismay of the staff, who have never taken anybody out, and the joy of the people who get out for once. And they're inspiring, that group.
It's that thing, isn't it? Just showing rather than telling people it's possible. You go and do it, and then you say, see that the earth didn't crash, stuff did, and look at how successful. I mean, I remember just as part of the COVID stuff, doing a bit of work with all the people services about somebody with a reputation, and they were waiting far too long to try and listen to him. Things had gone too far by that stage, and I was like, on my first day there, I just went like, well, I'm just going to take him out for a walk, and they were like, oh, and I says, this is the plan I've got, and it went fine, and we managed to get to the end, of the 2 months, and hopefully folk had a bit of a better understanding of, if you do the preventative stuff, you do this, you listen to people before they're shouting at you, you don't get to that stage. Folk are annoyed for a reason.
Yeah. And so what's it meant for you, Nick, then? Obviously we're on 6 months now. We were just saying that earlier on, 6 months into lockdown now. So 6 months of not coming up here on the train, for example, but coming up here only electronically. I mean, actually, when lockdown was happening, was just starting, you were about to go and do some training in different places, weren't you? You were going to go and do some stuff in Shetland, actually, at that point, weren't you? And various bits of stuff, but obviously not now. So
I've been hoping to get to Shetland for years and years and years, and the opportunity finally came up. And we were talking about getting there. Flybe went bust, which that was the start of it. And then a week later, we had COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
So we've been talking to Shetland lots on Zoom or Teams or whatever. It's been frantic. I've never been so busy. But the bits of work that I've ended up doing have been just amazing. I think the highlight of my summer was I had a week-long program of workshops that Alfie were running. They'll ask me to come and do some note-taking online.
Yeah, do you want to just say what Alfie is, Nick? Just so people...
Alfie is the Alliance for Inclusive Education. It's a disabled peoples-led organisation in London. They champion inclusion and inclusive education, and they're doing a lot of work around at the moment around supporting young leaders, young disabled people. And we did this piece of work where we had 4 days, 4-hour sessions on Zoom. We had a graphic facilitator drawing on the wall live on his camera. We had me online doing the notes. We had a sign language interpreter working. And we had a group of young people called the Rip Stars, and you can look the Rip Stars up. They're a stunning group of young people, disabled people, and they were interviewing the kind of, I guess it's almost like the gods, the founders of the disabled people's movement in the UK, and I can't remember everybody's names, but it was unbelievable hearing young people asking older people about their experiences and being chained to Westminster Bridge and making change happen. And it was a whole week of it. And 4 hours on Zoom a day.
So, I mean, I know you. Did hear you talking about? I mean, just personally, I know you mentioned this to me once before. Can you access those things online, Nick?
Yeah, The resources are going into a report that's been published at the moment.
Yeah.
So the outcomes of it, and the best site to look on is the RIPSTARS. The RIPSTARS site. And the graphics there from Stephen, who did all the graphics, are well worth reading, because it was a really powerful set of parts of. But the report should be out in October.
Yeah. Okay. And you're also been involved. I mean, like you said, you've been involved in all sorts of different things, haven't you? But you're involved in that piece of work with Lumos for a considerable period.
Yeah. Going to talk a bit about that on the lunchtime session that we've got coming up.
Oh, so, you're talking about that later on as well today. Yeah.
We've been working with Lumos, which is the J.K. Rowling charity. It's like it's a global advocate for ending institutionalization of children for any reason. So they work all over the world, and have been responsible for closing institutions left, right, and centre, really. But they had a very small piece of work down in the southeast around supporting a small group of children who've got all sorts of labels and are placed away from their families. And the intention was to be able to move them home. I think one of those wonderful projects where you have high ideals for an organization, and you're confronted with the reality that actually there are reasons why those young people won't be moving home. And immediately those high ideals are challenged. But we focused on really good planning while listening, listening to the families. There's going to be a report published in October by Lumos with the local authority that we worked with. And it took over my life for May and June, because we had, we learned huge amounts. We did a lot of very detailed work around case audits and looking at the local authority systems. Started with the family stories. Family stories told us so much more than anything on file. And, it was great.
Yeah, I'm going to check. You haven't heard of Lumos, have you, Alistair?
Well, I have heard of Lumos just through. It's all been through. We've had conversations because Nic's been involved. We've had other discussions about accessibility of PCP planning in Scotland, and we linked in about that whole discussion about Nic's ability to do stuff online, and so we've been doing this work about launching a PCP network. So we've had a few chats, and hopefully we'll have a bit more.
No, I just like that. I mean, I think that's such a great idea to have a charity that where the aim is to end institutional care for children. So I suppose, and I've only heard about it through you, Nic. Really, I've not heard about it through anyone else.
It's the same. It's a bit like, and I was just going to say, it's a bit like ILF in terms of it's well, I'm not saying it's like ILF, but I mean it's one of these things where the actual and the Life Changes Trust stuff, where there's a real focus on with these things on not just going through the motions and producing a few papers, but actually like making a difference on the ground. And I think that's what we definitely need more of.
Yeah.
The goal is no more the end of institutionalization of children by 2050. Full stop. That's the stated goal. Lumos haven't had a big profile in the UK, mainly because most of their work's been overseas or at a very high level with the United Nations. And this work was quite different because most of the places they work with are orphanages or supporting migrant children or sexually exploited children, or and many for disabled children, but they're very large, so they can be 5,000-6,000 children in them. So it's a different scale of activity. Often they don't get a chance to work alongside children, young people with such complicated support.
Yeah, we have some sort of strange magician in the background when we do these talks, Nick.
Yeah.
Did you realize that?
I didn't.
Oh, okay. So, Alistair, just put those back up again. Put up the last two. So we're able to do things like show you.
I'm very impressed with that. I was watching that last week during the Work We Are Citizen, We Are One festival, and it was brilliant. I was watching it through Facebook, so I was seeing people making comments on Facebook, and then they would be up on the screen. It was great. It was great. I love that week. It was very good.
Yeah. Well, last week it was the broadcasters or the techie person who was doing it, but this week, as always for Webinar Wednesday, it's June who's in the background, who's listening to this, and then putting up the relevant websites and so on that relate to what we're talking about. Yeah.
Good one too. I just push the button to put them on screen.
Yeah. So I was going to say, do you want to say a little bit about this week then, maybe?
Yeah. I think it started as a day-long conference in the Grass Market in Edinburgh.
It's going to be the 1st of April, that wasn't it? 1st of April.
April. It was a bit of an April Fool, that one.
Yeah.
So I think we regrouped after a little bit of catching a breath when lockdown hit everybody, and thought about putting on a program of workshops, like the idea of working lunches, trying to make it a time of day when people could join in and could get away with watching. Hi, Caddy. Good friend, Caddy. And it was a chance really to have short discussions, hear about really interesting things, and raise the profile of SDS for children and young people, and that's all children and young people who are needing support. I think that's been something that we've found out we've known for a long time. Keith has come back in discussions with children's services even very recently in Scotland, that although it's established work in disabled children support, it's not something that's really flowed out into the wider social care world, even though obviously the laws and the bills and the guidelines and everything are saying it should. So it's been really interesting hearing different people this week. It's been great hearing about so many different pieces of work that show that, I think we made the point yesterday, there's no bank of evidence that says SDS doesn't work. The only bank of evidence there is, it says that it works and it makes a big difference. And I think that's it's starting to attract attention north of the border. Sadly, south of the border, we have some way to go. But so it's been brilliant. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think actually the fact we're doing it over lunchtime seems to work quite well for people, doesn't it? I think people can drop in it makes it easier for people to drop in. Just because
it's not a huge commitment, is it? It's it's just an hour and a half, and we've got lots of speakers. Everybody's just like 15-20 minutes, so it's like bang bang bang. You can get through all that, and I guess we're going to make those recordings available, aren't we? Yeah,
we are going to make those recordings available. Yeah, so it's been done on Teams as well. So it's been done on Teams, and we are recording each of the sessions, so that anyone who wants to get a copy of them can get a copy of them.
We love working on Teams, don't we?
It's a bit of a challenge. Not something we're really used to, so it's been a bit of a different experience. But I think
that's the thing at COVID, hasn't it? We've been between Zoom and StreamYard and Google Meet and Teams and every blooming technology. You just want one to work nicely. But anyway,
we definitely learned lots of things that we wouldn't have learned without this, haven't we? Including, you've shared quite a few things there, Nick, haven't you? Really, of the different things that you've done, really, that you wouldn't have done.
No, we've talk about it, and I know that Alistair and Danielle and Tim are going to be talking about their experiences as well after over the lunchtime today. I think I've learned so much. I don't think anything will get rid of the fact that human contact is the best.
It is.
But we've had to make the best of the situation we've got. So the working with the young people in Lumos, actually we had some major wins from it, and we got more. I think we probably got more out of our discussions for those young people than we may well have done if we'd done it in meetings where there were more, where there were other people involved.
Yes,
it's very much it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. I think
that's the thing, isn't it? It's that whole thing of it's that necessity being the mother of invention thing, isn't it? It's the sort of like, because for me, I guess person-centered planning is always, I mean, it's always been about flexibility and listening, but it's, as well as that, it's had a bit of a shape to it in terms of how you go about it, and this is added the ability to have other layers to that, to pre-discussions and post-discussions and checking things out and building out that relationship. Whereas, you know, physical distance-wise, you couldn't physically travel to somewhere and do a lot of that prep. Whereas you can do these little, well, what I found was doing little 15 minutes, half an hour sessions for a few weeks beforehand to build that relationship, so that you weren't going in cold. It's hugely beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, these are all good things for our discussion later, aren't they, as well?
Yes, this is Keith saying, stop with the spoilers.
Yeah. I think, well, I'm just going to go and do something. I'm just going to go and pull the blind down, because today we've got a nice sunny day here in Glasgow today, and it feels like I've got too much sun coming down on me all the time. Did you manage to watch any of Citizen Fest last week, Nick? Did you manage to watch any of Citizen Fest last week? I
did. I caught on up in a big discussion on Tuesday with John and Francis and visitors from Advocacy Plus. And and it was the editing. It was very smooth. It was just like, and I was a bit thrown to begin with. I was thinking, but that wasn't what Francis. Oh, right, okay, it's gone.
Yes.
No, it was really good, and that was when I started to notice all the messages popping up. And then I saw some music, and I watched some of the comedy, and I really liked the way that I think I said it to you yesterday, Keith. I was having a look through Facebook and Citizen Fest was on, but by the end of the week, I was going on Facebook to find out what was on Citizen Fest and drop. And I thought the way that it was so accessible was brilliant. And you could just drop into conversations. And I was listening to a guy with a Viking helmet on, and his story about the ice getting melted, you know, and it was really good. It was very colourful in terms of lots of different people doing different things. So no, it was good fun. And I think fun, it gets people involved, doesn't it? So no, it was great.
It makes it more accessible, doesn't it, if it's not dry, because people want the excitement and say, oh, this can be entertaining, and we certainly had a bit of that, and no labels, no walls stuff as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good having a mix, isn't it? You know, but there's definitely something around. It would have been much more difficult to have had a conversation between four people about SDS in Scotland, almost on a stage in front of an audience. But in this format, actually, four people could have a long discussion, and then you can pick the bits out that really make sense. But that's using this medium at its best almost, and that worked really well, because if you were in front of an audience, it just wouldn't be the same. And restricting. And one of the things we found in the with the stuff with Alfie and with Inclusion London is the participation in the online work in the disabled people's world has gone to the roof. And so many more people are taking part now because they don't have to travel. and they probably and they may well not have been able to travel. They have an interpreter right in front of them. They have the screen and the graphics if they need them, and their numbers have just gone through the roof. We've got conferences with nearly 100 people online, and they've never had an attendance like that. And it was only, in the past, the conference was in Manchester. They'd have people from Manchester coming, but this time they have people from all over the country taking part. And so there's a big push to really think about how much we actually go back to face-to-face work, because it's not so inclusive almost. Although it doesn't work for some people, and I know that the numbers of people who are taking part is
it's all that blended stuff, isn't it? It's that sort of getting that balance right. And I know that a lot of what we've talked about as well as the digital exclusion, making sure that people who don't have, they might have a mobile phone or something like that, but they don't have a data plan that's got, enough or access to Wi-Fi, because the staff Wi-Fi is a different code and all that kind of stuff. So I know that certainly as part of the Learn Disability group that William, who's been posting regularly on here, we've done some work, and I think, there's a heap of us. I'll get to Fiona's point in a minute as well. But yeah, so that's we need to make sure that we can't presume that everybody's got access to that. We need to really
that's right. There's still lots of work to do with that, isn't there?
Yeah, there's heaps. Yes, and I guess it's trying to streamline some of this stuff, because if we think a lot of what we do is about easy read, easy access, and things like how do you join a Teams meeting, how do you put your hand up, how do you taking that step back, how do you make sure that people actually participate?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that was the first 2 weeks of lockdown I spent doing training for Inclusion London on Zoom. And it was literally somebody gave them my email and said, this guy does Zoom. And I've used it a few times with Alfie. And overnight, it was just like people wanted to know, but it was all about how do you make really simple training online. I think that the other bit around it is certainly in London, there's been funding out available to help people get online.
Yeah, and in Scotland too, we've got something called, what's it called? It's either Scotland Connect or Connect Scotland, isn't it, Alistair? I can't remember which way around it is now.
Yeah, I think it was Scotland Connect or something like that. Yes, that was, and it was, they were making grants of hardware and software to, so to try and get people connected. And I know that, like I say, some groups have managed to get some tablets and things to people, so that, because again, people using phones, the text is really small, the size, the size of, and it's that thing about the quality of the connection as well. Sometimes if folk have a poor quality connection and things are jerky, it's much more tiring, isn't it? It's exhausting sometimes for people.
Yeah. When I found the fun ones that I found was the local authorities were left scrabbling. It was actually the voluntary sector and most of us on the outside of the local authorities have had to do this and have done this for ages. Whereas the local authorities were going, we don't do video calls. We can't do this. We can't do this. It has, Caddy, yes. It's been...
Connected Scotland. We've got
Connected Scotland, Connected Scotland. That's a really useful thing to know about, I think, Connected Scotland, because still an opportunity to get some help if you are struggling with access to equipment or software, as you say, Alistair.
Yes. Of course, the irony is that if you're watching this, you probably have got access.
Yeah, no, that's it.
If you're watching this and you know somebody that isn't watching this, then please pass it on.
Yeah, that's true. Nick, just say a little bit about your thoughts for the future then, really. Just about, I mean, we've already talked a little bit there, probably, haven't we, about the idea of not everything going back to the same as it was before, which will be good, and trying to get the most from what the experiences we've had here, trying to make sure that we are using the learning from what we've done when we haven't been able to meet, but also going back to a new way of working, which will probably be a bit of a mixture of all of the things, won't it?
I mean, the bits of work that I've been getting involved in that are looking ahead all of it's online now. It's not being planned any face-to-face work, which is really sad because I really wanted to go back to Slovenia. But it's all been planned online. I think a really easy way of thinking about it is one of the people on the was with me was a seconded social worker. And suddenly the seconded social worker, from thinking that we were going to do everything face-to-face, was presented with the challenge of having to do it all online. And for her, it's been a real changing experience. And the things that we learned through what you were talking a bit about, Alistair, about the bite-size meetings and catching up with people is something that she's brought to practice now, and is in much more frequent contact with all the children that she links with and supports. And it was, so I think there's going to be this immediacy of being able to talk to people much more quickly without traveling, without trying to get everybody in the same room, is something that can be really, really positive. It won't replace that human contact, and certainly around, and safeguarding and things like that, it's very important that human contact isn't ever removed. But there is something around being able to talk and communicate and be in touch so much more than we've ever been with the people that we're working alongside. I think that's been one of the best things I got out of it, and seeing the impact of that in the longer term now on those working relationships and with its social worker, and it's brilliant. It's really good. I think that's where you go back to the Scotland Connected, though. Connected Scotland, it's really important.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to. There's a comment from Caddy just about online working for her. I'm just gonna. I mean, we're at 11:46, Nick, and we'll need to go for our next place. Our next place. Just really want any final comments you want to make from today? It's been nice talking to you, of course.
It's been lovely being part of this. I love working with you guys up in Scotland. I'm just sad sometimes that I live the other end of the country, but that's how it is. And it's looking back to all the way through. It's been a real joy, and I hope to continue.
Good. Well, I hope you continue as well. Alistair, anything? This week we've got we are back in our normal patterns now. We've got Feel Good Friday on Friday.
Feel Good Friday on Friday. So doing a bit more work on this. A bit more work on this easy read stuff. And just we've got lots of stuff on the go. We've got more webinar Wednesdays coming up. But it is getting back to a bit more normal planned stuff rather than wall-to-wall festivals. It was a bit of it was hard to concentrate on anything else. But
Tuesday talks coming up as well. So Tuesday at 2 p.m. our regular talks on a Tuesday. You can also access them on Facebook and on YouTube on the In Control Scotland one. And anyone who's interested who hasn't yet joined and wants to join the last two children's sessions, lunchtime sessions, 12 o'clock today and 12 o'clock tomorrow. You would just need to email us.
If you haven't had enough of us, then join us again in 10 minutes time.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. See you later.
Bye.